them in a certain way that they're as good as slaves. That's something to think about justice.
And worship.
And worship. Worship starts and sows the seed. And this part, I think Gary will 100% agree with me. And this sows the seed of how we live out our lives out there.
That's right.
Okay? We cannot pretend that this is, just this part and then go out there and, it's a whole different world out there. What we do here, worshipping God, needs to be out there worshipping people. No, sorry, not worshipping people. How we treat people. Well, anyway, yesterday, during a conversation with Reverend Silas Wong from Hong Kong, he said this, that worship shouldn't be just an exercise of energy, get you very high, and then that's it for 2 hours. No, it transforms you in your heart so that you go out and do justice. That is what worship is about. Yes, God does delight in our worship, but that worship must translate some further on, and not just, getting high and then up you go, and then the way you live is in total contrast or totally violating everything about love, about justice, about righteousness.
To begin, I think, and going out is definitely important, but I think, we think, actually, we do. We think.
Yes.
We also have to begin here. We have to begin among ourselves, because we cannot take out there things that we don't authentically feel in here. So if we are talking about inclusiveness in church and inclusive language, it's not just when we read the scripture text, it's in everything that we do. If we are talking about including different genders, different social groupings, different anything, it can't just be on a Sunday morning. It has to be every day of our lives. But we do have to begin here. We have to look at ourselves and say, am I really doing this, or am I just talking about it? Do I really notice the lovely little Chinese girls are so tiny, aren't they? I'm not a small girl, but I'm not that big either. But here I feel like a giant. And they're so tiny. Are we going to start noticing when we knock them over as we go out? Are we going to start paying attention to the person who's sitting after church and has no one to speak to? Are we going to remember to say hello to each other, to watch for each other, be sensitive for each other, rather than maybe coming to church on a Sunday morning just so we can be entertained?
I will go back to Bishop Robinson's line. The test of worship is how far it makes us more sensitive to the beyond in our midst. If we are not doing that, that's not worship. That's not Christian worship. Now I read my favorite verse again. The last sermon I used it, I'll use it again. He has showed you, O man, what is good. What does the Lord require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. Can we see that? If we walk humbly, we will be able to see everybody around here as a friend, as
a brother,
a sister. Yeah, we're done. This is one of the shortest sermons. I think this is the shortest sermon. One thing I want to close, one of the things that I remember most, during our conversation, and quite moving, we touched on a lot of women in the Bible, and I love that. And the one that really struck
touched a lot of women.
Oops. Ouch. Okay. We touched on a lot of women. That's for having an English teacher standing next to you. Now, what which is very memorable, is the woman who washed Jesus' feet. That's an act of worship. She was quiet and she just did it. So when we worship up there, not just here, it is an act, it's action.
As Catherine said. As Catherine said. Love is up.
Love is above.
Yeah, that thing.
Love is a verb. And I rewind a few weeks ago, love is not a feeling. It's an action. You do love, you don't feel love. That's the call that we are. And that is worship. That's all we have.